Hello and welcome to Unacademy. Welcome you all to the Hindu analysis. Now, today's newspaper was dominated by the mother of all deals, and we had multiple, you can say, articles based out of that. So, we will be discussing that. So, let's look at the topics from the Delhi edition. Good evening to all of you. Now, the first topic deals with the FTA generally and talks about what are the basic contours. We'll try to understand each and every sectorial impact so that we can understand how things will go forward in that regard. Then we'll talk about an important aspect which was talked about in the FTA, which is AI and semiconductors. This is important because there are certain terminologies which are there. Then we'll talk about the nuclear energy clause in the FTA. And last but not the least, we'll talk about how, from an economic standpoint of view, how does it help us in getting integrated into the supply chain with regards to the global scenario. So, as you can see, four very important topics, you can say very important articles on the FTA. This has dominated the newspaper. With regards to the text and context, there was an article on Syria. It's a specialized article which will deal separately from a separate video itself. It needs a lot of time, at least 45-50 minutes, to explain you the history of what is happening in Syria. Generally, we'll deal with that separately. And when it came to the editorials per se, they were again based on the FTA. So I have brought all of the information together into one packet of four, you can say, articles through which we'll try to understand the FTA per se. Then we'll have a discussion on the data point from the editorial, which is about the new codes which are there. And then gig workers welfare board, very interesting thing which has come out of Karnataka, very very important. Last but not the least, something which has been delayed for now quite a lot of years, the census. And for 2027 census, there is a chance that there will be a new type of, you can say, personnel who will come to your house, because there's a certain aspect of digital interface for the updation of the census itself. We'll talk about that. Now, before we begin, two very important announcements for you. First is that the 60% off CSC Assure 17999 offer is running right now. This is the lowest price we have ever got, and this will never return as we have been told. This offer is going to end on 29th of January, and you have to use the code IS English. It is very critical that you use this code IS English, because only then you get tagged to our team and you get the lowest price possible. At the same point of time, a delight for you, a certain opportunity for you to actually interact with Mukesh sir in a platinum setup. Today at 7 p.m., you have the platinum session where he's starting environment ecology, and his first three sessions are going to be free to all for each one of you to become a part of the platinum experience. So I hope that you've registered for it. If you haven't, you just have to go into the description box and just sign up for the Graphy portal, and you will get access to it. He will be taking multiple important aspects of environment in the first three classes, which is there for you generally. So if you haven't, as soon as this session will end by 6, you have an hour to figure this out. So do become a part of the platinum session. Now, let's start with the first topic. And as I said, the whole newspaper, be it page number 1, 10, 11, 12, everything was about the FTA. Now, this is not something which is quite normal. India and EU, when it comes to the amber box, when it comes to the level of phytosanitary or sanitary, what we call as boxes. Boxes means there are certain rules and regulations which are followed. You must have learned this in economics. We have a lot of disjuncture. The way EU looks at, for example, sustainable development, we look at sustainable development, how we use antibiotics, how they use antibiotics, the way EU and India look at certain things. There's a lot of disjuncture, there's a lot of disconnect in each. Therefore, it has now taken close to 2 decades to figure out a FTA, a free trade agreement between India and EU, but there have been a lot of catalytic moments here, meaning the Trump finickiness, his tariff wars, with regards to how he recently has gone into Venezuela, and thereafter how he's talking about Greenland. It all has acted like a catalyst to make this FTA possible, and maybe the timing was such that EU was extremely eager after what they had seen from Trump and the tariff wars to get a deal sorted with India. And that ways, it's a very historic deal because it will open 27 country or 27 nation block for India, where the reduction in the tariff is by 99.5%. At the same point of time, India will reduce for a lot of EU goods 97.5% of its tariff. That is where it is quite interesting that that both are ready to remove close to 90 plus of their tariffs. Now, we have to understand here what are the basic contours, meaning how each and every sector is going to get impacted, what does it mean, what is the larger purpose, and we'll try to analyze it, meaning we have to understand the basic contours of this FT. Now, there are two things which we have to take into account. What does EU gain? EU gains close to 90% of its EU goods getting tariff reduction in India. Further, wine duty goes from 150 to 20 to 30%. Spirits, 40%, a very important sector in the EU, specifically Italy and France. Then car tariff, 110 to 10%. This is a certain quota based system on a certain amount of, you can say, cars, and over about a certain value of cars. Not that every car, BMW or a Mercedes, is going to become very, very cheap. We'll discuss how automobile sector will be impacted. Germany wanted this. We will discuss how there's a certain quota based system here. Then Airbus aircrafts are going to become cheaper for Indian, for example, operators. So with three new Indian operators, be it Al Hind or Shank Airlines coming through, it is a good move that Airbus will be cheaper because Airbus is made in the EU, and pharmaceutical companies and machinery close to 0%. At the same point of time, for India, India now has its textile, leather, gems, and spices industry open, or has an open access to the EU in that regard. Steel also will benefit. Along with that, we have arms and ammunition, pharmaceutical, and carbon border tax, which is how the offsetting of carbon in the third world country, that how you get green credit. There was an issue with regards to how the conversion happens. That has now been sorted. Further, both the EU bloc and India have also kept certain cards very close to their heart. No agreement on energy and raw material. No, India directly said drop the chapter on sustainable development. No agreement on how GI tags, very interesting art and culture aspect, how geographical indications in both countries will be enforced. And nothing about chicken and rice, because chicken in India, when it is produced with a lot of antibiotics, which is not the standard which EU follows. Now, if I try to simplify this data further, you will realize how there is a major shift in certain sectors, which is cars 110 to 10, machinery 44 to 0%, chemicals 22 to 0%, pharma 11 to 0%, iron steel 20 to 0%, medical devices 0%. Further, wines and spirit 20 to 30, 40, beer 50%, chocolate 0, edible oil 0%. There was a time when the olive oil was very cheap in India, meaning it used to be maximum 11-1200 rupees per liter, which is cheap vis-a-vis oil, vis-a-vis other oils, healthy oils. Then there was a lot of tariff which was applied, and olive oil became very expensive. Now we will see that olive oil is going to become cheaper in India generally. But where all the buzz is, and a lot of people are talking about, now we can buy BMWs, you will see more BMWs, and for example, what is called BMW and Mercedes in that regard. There is a lot of clauses within the automobile sector. What are these clauses? For example, the phasing out of 110% duty to 10% is going to be in 5 years, which means it's a gradual change. Further, there is a phased way in which it will reach zero. Then there is a quota, meaning only 2.5 lakh vehicles will get this reduction in import duty. And there is also a value cap, meaning minimum price will should be more than, or should be 25 lakhs, meaning any car which is less than 25 lakhs will not get any form of benefits under this concept. EV and heavy vehicles and luxury cars are under this consideration, not consumer based mid sector cars. Now, Let's be very clear about one thing. The capping is at 25 lakhs and above. As it is BMW, Mercedes, or any other German manufacturer, even the British based manufacturers such as Jaguar, or Jaguar is technically owned by India only, Tata, but Land Rover, Land Cruiser, they don't sell for 25 lakhs. I think we all are very, very clear about that. 25, 30, 35 is not the range in which these cars are sold. You get 50 plus, very good cars in 80 plus, and very good cars in 1 crore plus. Now, this is not going to impact you and me, most probably. This is going to only impact the ultra rich in that regard. And for the ultra rich, as it is 10, 15 lakhs is not a very big amount. Further, there is also one more sub clause here, which is on assembled cars and manufactured in Europe and imported cars. Now, the tariff reduction is going to be on the ones which are imported into India, not the ones which are assembled. For example, 3 series, 5 series are assembled in India. Most of the people buy that because the parts are available in India itself. But for example, if you want an M5, if you have some other form of, you can say, a very expensive Z4 and all, it is made in Europe and it is brought to India. So the import duty will be reduced on Z4 or M5, which is already very, very expensive. So there are multiple riders. Everybody's talking about this on Instagram. Everybody's talking about it generally, but there are multiple riders here. So the first aspect, I hope it is clear, which is that there are certain sectorial concepts, and both of the partners have kept certain sectors outside the purview, which is India said no question on agriculture and dairy sector. EU said nothing on beef, sugar, rice, chicken meat, milk powder, honey, bananas, soft wheat, garlic, or ethanol. We will not have any question on this. Nothing whatsoever. No, it has not been shifted permanently to 5 p.m. It is a makeshift arrangement as of right now. And yes, Obra, I have a certain sore throat. I've been struggling with my throat and generally had a cold. That is why you're getting this type of a voice out of me. Now, the first aspect should be totally clear to everyone, which is mother of all deals and a certain benefit based analysis. If we are all on the same page here, if we are, then I'll move to the second part, which is the AI aspect. Are we clear, everyone? See, Astitva as it is, this FTA will go to the European Parliament for what we call as ratification. Review clause is there, and most of these things will have to go through each and every partner within the EU through the EU Parliament. So a lot can change by the time it gets ratified by the EU per se. Now, the second aspect which has been highlighted and is generally very important is the AI and semiconductors technology, which has been talked about. Mother of all deals means that it is the deals of the deals. It is the most important deal which India can have, which is also true. After the US, EU was a very big, you can say 27 country block, which we did not have access to in a preferential way. So it is a very important deal in that regard. Now, see, AI and semiconductors go together, meaning without proper chips, AI won't work. And India and the EU have been discussing in multiple aspects about AI and how semiconductor manufacturing, assembly, and processing, which aspect can be played around. Now, here, what has happened is through the FTA, there has been 3 to 4 major developments in the AI sector. First, they've talked about joint operationalization of R&D, which is research and development. Very interesting, very important. Second thing is called as how the design will be developed in a certain way, which is called heterogeneous integration. And European AI office is now going to get integrated into National AI Mission of India, so as to produce now critical technologies and AI generally. Now, this is a very big article from Text and Context and has multiple aspects inside it. Let's decode it, but in a systematic manner. That is why I have tables for you here. First is, how did we come here? What was the mechanism which was in place previously? Now, the first type of discussion which was happening till till 2026 was a strategic partnership till roadmap of 2025. This was based on 5G, cybersecurity, data protection, mostly diplomatic, had nothing about AI and semiconductor. But since 2022 and 2023, India has been trying to figure out a strategic technology and semiconductor MOU, which wanted to shift out of diplomatic channels into critical technologies, AI, technological development, technical experts traveling between the countries, and semiconductor supply and resilience. This is critical because of China. The way China controls most of the supply, most of the critical minerals, most of the semiconductor, you can say, technology in the world. We know that for fabrication, they are the experts, they have a near monopoly. So, therefore, when this FTA went forward, there were multiple provisions which were introduced so as to bypass it. And here you will get this word called heterogeneous integration. For the first time, what EU and India have done is they have said we will not go for fabrication. Rather, we will go for packing. We will go for packing. Packing means that we will stack logic boards, memory boards, sensors together in one. Therein to produce AI performance and accelerators rather than producing, which is going to be very capital intensive. We will go for straightforward assembly. And both India and the EU have strategic understanding here. What I mean by that is, India has the strength of having 20% of the global AI design talent, meaning most of the AI chip designs are being produced by Indians abroad. So, therefore, we can harness that. At the same point of time, EU has the infrastructure to go for this type of assembly, thereby creating both the design capability and the research and development capability. Therefore, integration will in turn lead to the hardware capabilities of both the nations to come together and go for an alternative path vis-a-vis South Korea and China. As of right now, the hotspots for manufacturing, design, assembly, and you can say chip design, all are South Korea or China. They are trying to undercut it. This is an important aspect. So, what is the takeaway from here is the word heterogeneous integration. This word means that we will be now bringing in multiple aspects together which previously may have not been taken into consideration. So, we have logic, memory, sensors all in a single pack. Thereafter, the second word which is used is called as the common market aspect. Indian AI, or there is no form of understanding in what is the basic standards of AI across the world. That is where Indian AI companies will be regulated by European regulations. At the same point of time, Indian data can flow to the EU, you can say, hubs and data centers. Why is this important? Because previously, if any AI data has to be actually, you can say, transferred or exchanged, diplomatic channels were there. No economic channel or company to company or business to business contact. This is where the second word, which is the concept of a common market, that EU and India will see the AI market in each of their sectors as a common market. And the last most important word which is used here is the concept of testing and evaluation. I'll bring everything into a mind map. You know that I always do that. But do understand this point. what is called as testing and evaluation is a very important aspect of this FTA. There is no international standard to determine what is a common definition of testing and evaluation and what is considered safe AI. Now, India has an aspect of how we want to concentrate on a different set of data, which is political neutrality. On the other hand, EU wants gender neutrality. This comes together to produce a certain model which helps us go forward in R&D well. So, before we go into the finance aspect, let's try to summarize. We have been talking a lot of things. Let's talk about this FTA. When we talk about India EU FTA, the first aspect which we have discussed, the first aspect which we discussed is sector based concession. Sector based concession will help our export and import sector, and this is consumer centric. Consumer centric. Thereafter, the second aspect is AI and semiconductors. The second aspect is AI and semiconductors. Here, there is a mention to three aspects which are going to be a game changer. First is the concept of what is called as heterogeneous integration. Heterogeneous integration means we will not work on only one aspect, but three to four aspects together. No fabrication. No fabrication, only integration. Second aspect which has been talked about is common market, which is now there can be a data transfer between the countries without taking diplomatic channels into consideration. Last is testing and evaluation. Here, a common global definition of what is considered as safe AI is important. I have two questions for you, prelims questions for you out of this discussion. So pay attention. Both countries have also kept sensitive areas aside and made sure that these sensitive areas don't become a deal breaker. Don't become a deal breaker. They are basically important aspects of not creating friction. This is basically what the two articles have been talking about. Now, for all of this, India needs funds for research and development, for integration. India needs funds. And this is where there are two opportunities which are created within the EU to get these funds. First is called the Horizon Europe Association. This is an association which gives you grants for AI development and can allow India to get funds and grants to develop AI further. Second is called the European Innovation Council Partnership, EIC. This is called patient capital, meaning long term, very deep research that can be funded here. So we have the EIC fund, and second is the Horizon Fund. These two funds together can allow India to then fund these two, or rather these three aspects in that regard. I hope you understand it's a complex set of concepts. Horizon Fund will give you quick capital grants. EIC fund will give you long gestation period. Does this make sense? Because I will now add one more aspect to it, which is nuclear, and then the import understanding. Are we all on the same page here? As I said, most of our discussion will be about the FTAs because the paper was dominated by the FTA, and that is one of the most important aspects for your preparation. All on the same page with me? Yes, sir. Okay, very good. Now, the next aspect which is linked to this agreement, yes, no agreement on energy and raw material, is nuclear cooperation. Now, this is very, very significant because previously India was not considered a country which can be trusted with nuclear technology and nuclear power. Here, Euratom or Euroatom is going to become very, very important because under this agreement, there will be collaboration along research, development, advanced material for detection, safety, nuclear security, non power applications of atomic energy, and deepened cooperation of how agri food, energy, water, health, semiconductors, biotechnology, all of these aspects will come together through Horizon Europe also. So, this is where there's a very major principal shift. That shift is in the nuclear sector where collaboration, or rather we'll say trust, cooperation, and R&D, which in turn leads to collaboration, we will have all of this for the first time with EU. This is a very major shift in their principal stance in not giving any form of technology to India for nuclear reprocessing and the concept of the nuclear bomb. India's stance with regards to not signing the NPT is also something which has irritated the EU for a very long time. But for us, Trump is doing the trick because he has shown that he is not a reliable partner per se. There's also a very interesting clause in the FTA where, over and above all of this, arms and ammunition procurement from India and India's procurement from France, Rafale, or India giving them, for example, ATAGs or Akash, all of that will be duty free. So, again, commercial transfer of defense technology has been taken into consideration. Now, to complete this story, the last part which has been talked about is how we will get legal supply chain. This is a article from the business part of the paper, and here we have sector by sector impact understanding. For example, in automobile industry, innovation, sustainable growth, and better ecosystem for German cars will come through, and European cars will come. For textile sector with zero duty access, a new market has been opened for India. This will counter Bangladesh and Vietnam. This is very important because a lot of the textile which is going to the EU today is from Bangladesh and Vietnam. India's free access will allow the textile to compete with Bangladesh and Vietnam. Thereafter, apparel's export, this will show growth for sure. IT services, there is a certain clause in which technical skilled personnel can now go easily to the EU, will allow for some form of collaboration with regards to brain, you can say intellectual collaboration per se. Pharmaceuticals, again, will give us competitiveness vis-a-vis other manufacturers, specifically China. EU healthcare consumers, we are known for the aspect of what is called as medical tourism, and this will again allow us to get access to EU benefits and EU machinery, which is one of the most cutting edge. Thereafter, all of this translates into the mother of all deals. Therefore, India's boosted, or we'll say India's access to EU markets, along with carbon credit and border tax, all of this allows for this deal to become one of the biggest in the world. So I hope that this discussion gives you a bird's eye view of what are the aspects which are being talked about in the news and generally with regards to this FTA. This mind map is one stop solution for all of these articles per se. Anybody has any issue in understanding this? With regards to sectorial, access to EU markets, nuclear sector, semiconductor, the funds which are available, and these terms are now very important for the examination. Are we all on the same page? Yes, sir. Because I want to ask a mains question and two prelims questions. I want everybody's participation here. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, the first and very simple, straightforward question which can come in the examination is this: India's EU FTA will be a game changer for India. India EU FTA will be a game changer for India. Comment. Here you have to talk about each and every aspect or impact or significance generally. Generally. This is a simple question. Now, how? See, it will be a game changer because it gives access to 27 nation. The whole discussion till this point was about the game changing aspect of global supply chain, AI, sectorial benefits, everything in that regard. You want to take a screenshot of the you take this screenshot. I'll remove myself here. You take a screenshot. Take a screenshot. Done, Simran. Okay. No. Himanshi, you don't have to remember the data which is given in the table. Data is never important in UPSC. Trends are. Now, come on, let's take this question. Please answer the question. Tell me the answer to this question. Come on. First, you do it. I'll then read it out to you and explain it to you. Harshai, it is even more complicated than that. The new cadre policy is not like college counseling. The new cadre policy is pure Russian roulette. Meaning, because it is basing itself on the serial number concept, and over and above that, within that serial number concept, there is this randomization that if two people have applied for the same home cadre, the first one will get it in the first round, second one in the second round, and the opaqueness of this whole thing in turn leads to it to become a very difficult way of determining. It is a guarantee. If you've not watched that video, you should. There's a now a guarantee that if you get your home cadre, you get it. There is 99% chance that you will be randomly pushed to any state, any cadre which you may have not even opted for. Your own discretionary element or your own free will is gone. It is purely UPSC playing a game of 0 to 25 and then determining everything insider, outsider. It's a very, very complicated document with a very complicated system also in place. Okay, so here the answer is B, which is first statement is incorrect. Within the EU European Union FTA, there is no dedicated chapter on sustainable development. This has been omitted. And at the same point of time, there was no agreement on energy and raw material. At the same point of time, this is correct that strategic sectors remain outside the preview, the protection, this outside the preview of the FTA. So, very simply, this is a very realistic question in the examination. For the cadre based question, remember one thing. Now you should indicate what is your home cadre. Because if you explicitly not said home cadre, you'll not get it. Okay, second question. Come on. Tell me what is the question to this, what is the answer to this question? Maybe next week. No, Sunday. Vishru. On Sunday, I'll be there with 10 a.m. Actually, I'm also in morning batch. Shams is also in morning batch. Therefore, when we are taking it, we have to take it in the evening. Shams has recently started economics for the new 2027 batch. You may know it also. Okay, perfectly fine. Yes, all the three statements are correct. Now, why have I given you in this format? Read this properly and note it down. Why? Because they can play with any of the terminology here. So please pay attention to these type of questions. I told you that both prelims and mains type of questions can be made out of this. So you have to make sure that you are able to use these, identify the keywords, also identify any deficiencies in the keyword. Are we all on the same page here? I so told you longest discussion. This now we move to the other aspects. Yes, yes, sir. Okay. Now, this is a very interesting article because it is very close to you and even close to me. Meaning, if you go by the data is one thing. But if I ask you this question, that as a job seeker between the age of 21 to 29 to 30, do you feel that you are in a market or in an employment sector where there is a lot of security? What would be the answer to that question? Job security, social security. This 10 years, 21 to 30 age, do you think that you are in a market which is very favorable to you? And as an engineer, as a doctor, as a graduate, as a postgraduate, your answers were very quickly going to be no. No. We You are the demographic dividend of this country. But what this data point actually points out is that you are the most vulnerable also. You are the most vulnerable also. And your vulnerability was taken into consideration for the labor codes which have been brought in. So the context of the article is, we have now a labor code which has been more systematized. The reason for the labor codes to be so fragmented was it is part of the concurrent list. Therefore, both the center and the state can make laws. And we had a regime which was extremely scattered. Now, the four labor codes which have been brought in the past, you can say 2019, 2020, and 25 period, they take into consideration the following data. Now, this data per se is not important, but the issue is the labor force participation of people or of you and me people, youth between 15 to 29 years of age is 46.5%. Some of you may be studying, so you're not part of the labor force. 30 to 59, 76.4% of the people are working. So there's a major gap. Between 15 to 29, which is the demographic dividend area, we are either preparing for UPSC, either preparing for NEET, either preparing for JE, either preparing for some form of competitive examination, SSB, IMA, whatever it may be. Most probably, we are going to prepare for state PCS. That examination is going to happen. Either you will not clear, or the paper will get leaked, or something will happen to SSB, and thereafter, there's a whole loop in which people are stuck. Yeah, na? This is your life. This is the whole point. We examination after examination after examination. Once you are board examination, once board is over, then the entrance examination, then entrance examination, then NEET, then the advanced prelims, this, that, UPSC, if not UPSC, state PCS. This is the year of giving the examination. So there is a skewed understanding. After 30, people are more part of the labor force. Under 30, they aren't. SSC is a very good example of how things change. Now, the unemployment rate within this 46.5% is 10%. Whilst when you have reached to an age where you start to develop diabetes, your knees don't work, you have blood pressure, or some form of issue, some health issue you have developed, because as a UPSC aspirant, as a NEET aspirant, as a JE aspirant, you did not do any physical activity. You are always sitting, you are preparing. You were trying to make your life, but in the process of making your life, you have developed health issues, and those health issues will start to show after 30. So, therefore, now what is going to happen is when you are in that cycle of 30 to 49, the you have employment, but you don't have health. And that is why here the unemployment rate is much, much, much lower vis-a-vis the unemployment rate in 15 to 29. So, youth face significant higher levels of joblessness. If I take into consideration female labor force participation, 28.8%, which is again major difference vis-a-vis male force participation, 63.5%. So females maybe not part of it because of marriage, because this is also the marriageable age in India. Once they become extremely stable at the age of 30, then they are allowed to work. So 63% of young men are working, only 28.8% of the men are working. And urban female unemployment is at 20%, double that of overall unemployment. If that is not enough, nature of work is even more problematic. Mostly unpaid family labor for women. 90% of the youth workers are actually formal sector. And in the 30 to 59 years of age, this is 30 to 59, much lower. Social security, lack of social security is 60% in younger age, 15 to 29, 50% in the higher ages. No written contract, 66% don't have a written contract. Here, 53% don't have a written contract. Long term contracts, only 16% have, while 35% have. There are 77 lakh gig workers in this age, and this will become 2.35 crores. Meaning, if I go by the data, when I am in this bracket, I am more vulnerable. The vulnerability percentage is such: no written contract, higher share for youngsters. No social security, higher share for youngsters. Less what we call as long term contracts for 30 to 59. This is why the whole job market seems like a mess. Pure mess. You are young, you are preparing. That is why engineers are there is brain drain, that they're going to Americas, they're going to Europe. That is why most of the good engineers in India are either don't want to go to ISRO, or are just preparing for UPSC, because the nature of the market is such that there is no job security per se. Now, if that was not enough, now UPSC will play as it is Russian roulette with you when it comes to your cadre. You wanted, for example, UP, you will get Tripura. And for example, you wanted Assam, you will get Karnataka. The point is that now attrition rate within the people who clear the UPSC examination will also be higher. And I can guarantee that to you. Because previously it was your decision which cadre you want. Now it is not your decision, UPSC's decision. And therefore, there will be even more interesting aspects where people will get through. Once they will get through, they will get some random cadre. They don't want to go to that cadre because there is this glamorization of the IS examination through people such as Tina Dabi. And therefore, when they will get to know that they're going to a district which is actually 18 hours away and you have to change 3 different transports, they will automatically leave it because they don't need to do it. And then who will miss out? A deserving candidate who really wants that job vis-a-vis a candidate who may be very comfortable in an MNC, who gave it because they wanted to serve the nation per se. So the point is, this article points out the reality of the job market. Now, each of these points have been addressed to the labor code. How much it will get addressed is a separate issue. The point is, overall objective is formalization. National floor wage has been decided, minimum wage has been decided. Further, fixed term employment has been made mandatory, wage and benefit parity to permanent workers. Appointment letter has been made mandatory. Guaranteed wage payments have been made mandatory, including leaves, and code on social security so that health, maternity, education, and skill benefits are given. Over and above that, gig workers platform, they have been given recognition. Karnataka is the first to do something about it. Then institutionalization of the whole mechanism has been pushed through. There is more, you can say, market transparency because vacancies have to be reported, and industrial relations and fixed term workers, there the social security ambit has been increased to the four labor codes. But remember one more thing, that all this is on paper. How does this go forward is a separate issue altogether. Now, what to do with this information? You have to take into consideration three to four things for a question like this, which is the vulnerability of a young job seeker in India is very high. For women, it is even more harder. Gender disparity, formalization, informalization of labor, lack of social security. This is your main table. This is your main data. This proves to you that there are multiple gaps in the job market which the labor codes are trying to figure out. I hope you understand. As I said, this article is close to us because we are all part of that system in that, right? Everyone, clear? India's demographic dividend is more vulnerable in the job market. Elucidate. You cannot answer this question without going through this article. I hope you are now you're now in that position to actually write an answer for. Yes, sir. Very good, sir. Okay. Now, based on the labor code, Karnataka is one of the first states to create what is called as gig workers welfare board. Most of the delivery partners, they're part of an informal economy which is called as gig working, where they are basically a part of different forms of what we call as contractual aggregators, and these aggregators don't give any social security benefit. So Karnataka has become the first state to enact a gig workers welfare development board, and this board will have ex officio president or the labor minister, along with that senior officer of the labor department, department of the information technology and commercial taxes as ex officio members, and a chief executive officer as member secretary. This is the composition. Now this can become a precedence across states, concurrent list. Now, how the gig workers will get integrated? So four representatives from gig workers unions and four representatives from the companies which are aggregators in. These aggregators will also include AITUC and other unions. If they want representation in it, they will also get it. 45 days window has been given, but this is a very important aspect. This 45-day window, each aggregator has to tell how many gig workers are there. Each will given a UIN, which is unique identification number, and social security benefits will have to be disbursed. Most probably your groceries is going to become more expensive because a 1 to 1.5% platform welfare fees will be applied so that this money can be pushed into this welfare board. But for the gig workers, it is good. This model and this concept itself is very good, that every aggregator has to give some form of social security. The problem lies is the same worker works in Zomato, in Flipkart, in Amazon, in Swiggy, and in Blinkit. Blinkit is basically Zomato only. So the problem is now the gig worker would have to choose where does he want to get registered, either with Zomato, either with Zepto, or with Swiggy. This is a decision which only curtails their freedom as a contractor to the aggregator. So this creates a problem as much as a solution. as much as a solution. And therefore, this can also lead to disruption in the gig working economy. Let us see what happens, but good precedence as of right now. The last discussion which we will have is with regards to the census which is going to happen next year. Now, the census commissioner has rolled out a specific job profile or a specific position for 18 months within the census process, which is for digital census. For the first ever digital census, they want multi-task force digitally literate men, meaning hiring technical manpower which will help the school teachers and the government officers, or generally the officers who are actually census officers, to use the mobile application for capturing the data itself. So as part of this larger process, the one of the biggest festivals of enumeration in India, census data will now be captured fully digitally. Because not all teachers and all census officers are digitally literate, there will be a new officer or a new post which will be created for 18 months with close to 25 to 18,000 per month as technical assistant and MTS, which who will accompany these men and women to capture data digitally. So, what we have discussed today concentrates around the FTA. I have already pointed this out. I will show you this what we call as mind map which we had created. This mind map is your one stop solution for what is the FTA. AI semiconductors, the FTA itself, sector based concessions, EU market access, heterogeneous integration, common market, along with that testing evaluation, common global definition, Horizon Fund, and EIC Fund. These words will now be in vogue across the paper. Most probably tomorrow, I will be discussing this topic again through an editorial. But I hope that you will remember this generally for the examination. Other than that, we all understand the vulnerability of the youth, demographic dividend which India is as of right now wasting. And in the end, we also understand how Karnataka is trying to figure out how to make the gig economy better. So I hope that all of this made sense to you. And I hope that this session has been fruitful with the two questions which you've done along with the mains question. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you. Take care.